Good evening and welcome to I Am Piscataway. This is Monday, January 8th, 2018. We are on the air live. If you'd like to speak with me or my guests during this hour-long program, please call us at 732-562-2305. My guests this evening include Ward 4 Councilwoman Michele Lombardi, Ward 2 Councilwoman Jim Bullard, and Township Landscape Architect Henry Hinterstein. Councilwoman Michele Lombardi has been a councilwoman since 2006. She has served as council president, is currently the chair of the Council Public Safety Committee, and a member of the Council Finance Committee. Nice to have you back again, Michele.
Hello.
Councilman Bullard was elected in 2010 and presently chairs the Council Public Works Committee and is a member of the Council Finance Committee. And Jim is an advisor to the Senior Citizen Advisory Commission and a very talented photographer. He's also very often the stage manager for this show, but tonight we are making him wear another hat and a tie and as a guest on the program. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you very much.
And Henry Hinterstein has worked for Piscataway for 25 years as a landscape architect, and in addition, for the last 13 years as a professional planner and assistant zoning officer. Henry has designed most of the parks throughout the township, has the BA in environmental planning and in design, and is also a member of the American Society of Landscape Architects and the New Jersey Recreation and Parks Association. Nice to have you back, Henry.
Thank you.
So we thought that with the start of the 2018 cycle, typically January, February, March is when the township's getting ready to go out to bid for park improvements, roadway improvements, typically large infrastructure items, and typically this is now the time that Henry's starting to finish up with designs of some of the parks in towns, as some of the folks have saw. We could talk about some of the parks that were done in 2006, that were finished in 2016, but still have some punch list items left to it. And then some of the potential parks that'll be renovated this coming year and during the summertime. And for those folks who are wondering, you took care of some of the parks and playground equipment like 15 years ago. Why are you going again? Well, the American Disabilities Act standards has changed, and now the new design is all the, as Henry will discuss, is to allow for more wheelchair accessibility for folks that may want to use those sites. So, Henry, why don't you talk a little bit about the parks?
Well, in general, as you were touching on, even though some of the parks, the equipment still looked like it was relatively in good condition, the standards keep changing, and what happens is that you have to keep upgrading the equipment so that it meets the standards. And as part of those standards, as I was talking with Michele, it requires that you have a certain amount of handicap accessibility requirements, certain amount of ground level events. So basically, it's just to keep it sort of on a cycle where nothing gets too out of date, and it's a big task. We have so many parks and playgrounds here that we try to take 5-6 playgrounds a year and slowly start to improve them and update them.
That's a very key point that you're bringing up, Henry. As the council members here know that even after, say, 5 years that we're done with it, there's always constant ongoing maintenance and all the equipment. And typically we have a couple of folks that are certified. The Recreation Director, John Turney's certified, and somebody in the Inspections Division certified. And there's some government to make sure that they go out like once a week or every other week to make sure that the equipment is operating. I know Jim Bullard and his folks on the Recreation Commission go out to the various parks and check up on things. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jim.
Exactly, and what we do is we take a look at all the parks, and out of the 25 parks, what we do is each person will have about 5 parks, and we check it to make sure what's going on. And if something is going awry, so to speak, we will make sure we get to your organization. Now, generally, because we update the parks every 5 years, those parks are always looking good.
Yeah, I mean, playgrounds aren't the only thing that we're doing. We're constantly, in a 5-year cycle, we try to recolor coat all the courts in the township. So all the basketball courts, all the tennis courts, all the roller hockey rinks. Typically, your color coat surfacing, the cracks start to carry through the surface of the color coat. So if we stay on a 5-year cycle, it's almost like sealing your driveway. It tends to hold up much better, and it's much cheaper to recolor a court every 5 years than letting it deteriorate to the point where now we have to repave it and mill it, and you end up outlaying a lot more funds to do it. So courts are always staying in pretty good shape by just staying on sort of a cycle, and same with the equipment. So if we stay on a cycle where you're constantly just maintaining everything and keeping everything sort of at
Right. And also with the mulch that you have out there
Same
to
thing,
protect
yes.
the kids, you change that very frequently.
You know, and Henry knows this, and so does Councilmember Lombardi, is that even those standards have changed over the year. It used to be just that dirt
Dirt.
Yeah, it's
on there,
constant
and
change.
now and then it was some type of surface, and now it's like a specialized safety surface that are actually we actually have a contract through the Department of Public Works that they go out and they fill the playground areas every year with the fill, or if it's gotten too old, that they actually clean it out. And
Right. A lot of
entirely.
that depends on, again, the inspectors usually go out on a yearly basis. They'll check the levels. We try to maintain 12 inches of safety surface. It does break down, it does settle. So we're constantly filling it, and then usually it has a lifespan. It's mulch, even though it's a hardwood mulch, it does tend to break down over time. And what happens is you lose that sort of absorption, and the head attenuation levels don't meet the standards anymore. So
That's just not taking it for insurance purposes, but for it's the cushion, it's the bounce
Right.
factor.
The bounce back with the kids and so forth.
The way they test that is if they drop something from a certain height, how much force does that object and versus the shock absorption that surface provides. So that's how they determine whether or not it passes. And there's several safety surfaces that qualify under the standards, but the hardwood mulch is probably one of the more economical choices.
And I think that began about 20 years ago, if I recall.
Yeah, close to it, yes.
Around that, because I know before, when you take a look at all the parks, it was dirt,
Sand, a lot of
sand and whatever. And when kids jump and they fall, they have to get hurt. But when you put the mulch out there, I'm calling it mulch, I think that really helped them because it gave them some bouncing room and so forth.
It's definitely been a lot safer.
Now, I know I know some of the parks, like over in Hazelwood and Merv Alexander Park, a lot of residents really appreciate how it turned out looking. In some of the areas, we're putting up new fencing and fixing some of the parking lots over there
Totally transformed Hazelwood. Mervyn Alexander Park was one of the projects we just completed 2017. Again, there's a few punch list items there. St. Durham Park just recently completed the playground at Possumtown Park. Columbus Park, which really was the sort of the culmination of all the projects and improvements that we've done there over the last couple of years, including the building and the restrooms and the pavilion, the canoe launch and kayak launch that's out in the back there. So yeah, it's again, all of those playgrounds I think have turned out great. They've sort of transformed from what they were to a lot of them were just a rectangle playground and not much, I don't know, design element to them. So I think we've really spruced them up, made them safer.
We have to applaud you because
I
think people don't really realize the importance of how important a park is in our town. So we have beautiful parks. We have parks that are for kids. We have now Colonial Park. We have a lot of people that are getting married out there, having pictures out there. But when you have good parks in your town, it's number one, big for, my big passion, health and wellness. So it creates healthy atmosphere for the residents. It creates the family unit to get together, to be out there. And it's good for kids. Keeps kids off the streets. So the importance of our parks and how good and the quality of our parks are a huge asset to this town.
Yeah,
so
definitely agree with you there.
I
think it's
applaud you for
immeasurable.
that, and we can only keep doing better in that aspect.
I appreciate that, and it's been, I think, to be fair, it's been, the mayor's, I think, drive and passion is to make sure that the parks in this town have always been top notch for as long as I've been here.
Beautiful.
And speaking of top,
and the council, of course.
And speaking of top notch, one of the things I want to tell you is during the summer, because I'm part of Babe Ruth, I'm up and down northern New Jersey every day, and with our parks and the lighting, it makes a difference, or what have you. Because if you don't have the lighting, you cannot play night games. And some towns cannot play night games, so we had to have the games on the weekend or before dark because they don't have the proper lighting like we have here at Piscataway.
Well, I think it's what all three of you just mentioned is our success in maintaining our parks, or that's what you should be doing governmentally anyway. But other folks that don't live in our community now know, hey, listen, we go to Piscataway. It's kind of interesting. I guess over this summer, there was over at Veterans Park there in the Possumtown area. I go out there one day. I was driving by around lunchtime. I noticed that there was like about 30 kids out there with all the same color shirts on. I was like, well, that's interesting. So I went over, stopped by, got out and introduced myself. It evidently was a club from Middlesex Borough that they go around checking out all the Piscataway parks.
That's what I was saying we should do. We should probably do something like that where, because so many people, if you live on one side of town, you have no idea what some of the other parks looks like. Like when we had the last concert and people came out to Columbus Park, they were amazed at how nice that one had been finished. And if you're not from that area, you would never know to go see it. So maybe somehow if we could put a list together.
We'll have to do a park tour.
Yeah, a park tour.
One of the things,
instead of a pub crawl, we'll do a park tour.
Sounds fun, but
we did start adding some different components to it. I'm not talking about structural, but some actually some like virtual games towards the parks.
Yeah, we have what's sort of one of the new elements in the playground world is, as you know, or maybe you don't, but right now it's all the craze is this Pokemon Go, and it's sort of like games that you basically play on your cell phones, and as everybody knows, you almost can't get kids off the cell phones these days, and children playing outside has almost become difficult to get the kids to just to get outside and play. I think when I grew up, you'd go out until the street lights came on. You were outside playing all the time. But obviously now with computers and the games, it's just it's harder to get kids out there. So what this program is it's a game that you could download on your cell phone, and it's interactive, and the kids basically then have to go around, and there's certain little tags that are put on the equipment, and so the game on the cell phone tells you basically go find this, go find that, and it makes you sort of experience the whole playground structure by having to find these elements, which is similar to, again, to, like I said, the Pokemon type of games that are on the cell phones now. And the game has sort of a double purpose. It gets the kids, again, to
use every
their
piece
language,
of
the cell phone language,
gets
them out, moving around and experiencing the playground equipment. And at the same time, it also provides the township with some really valuable feedback. What they send us a report on a monthly basis. It tells us the time of day that the park was most active, the elements that were the most used, the weather on those days. So you really get a lot of interesting feedback as to what's going on with the parks, again, and it may be helpful to schedule, let's say, when the restrooms should be open, because we can see what's the peak demand for the playground. So it's been pretty neat experience just incorporating this into all of our new playgrounds that we've been putting out there.
And it's an update from Pokemon.
It's
because
similar
what happens,
to that,
similar to it, but what happens with Pokemon, I understand, because I've never. What happens there, it takes you in the backyards of people's backyards, and it takes you out of the way, and that's not too good for kids. But having the one that stays within the park, it's really, really good.
No, we're going to hold that thought because we've got to do a little videotape. I want to remind the viewers, the guests on the show are 4th Ward Councilman Michele Lombardi, Henry Hinterstein, our landscape architect for Piscataway Township, and Councilman Jim Bullard. And with that, we're going to go to a very quick 1-minute clip of the New Year's Day celebration at the Senior Center. And Jim, you might want to jump in on that because I know you were over there.
Oh, yes. One thing about the Senior Center, we really get the people out there, and you're talking about everybody and anybody, and so forth. So therefore, as you can see the mayor right there, and these people, many times we will have about 300-400 people in there because it's so entertaining and so forth and so on. And everyone has a good time.
I just want to let the record reflect that was pink
kind
soda.
Yeah, what's in the champagne glasses?
It was 7 pink 7. It was pink 7-Up, I think what it was.
Yeah, because when I got mine, I told them this is not ready enough. So they said it's not what you think it is. But you can see you had every culture in the world right there, and that's
they have a good
thing.
time there.
Yes, they
have a
do.
good
And then I
time.
think coming up in February is the Chinese New Year? or
The Chinese
something?
New Yes. I think they've
Sometime
changed it.
January, February.
Yeah, I
so
think that they've changed the name from the Chinese New Year to another.
Another issue.
Yeah.
All right, well, good. That's one of the ones. And then once again, I want to remind the viewers, number 732-562-2305. And my guest this evening is Councilwoman Michele Lombardi and Henry Hinterstein, our landscape architect, and Councilman Jim Bullard. One of the big discussion items, somebody asked me, like over in Bryant Park where we had the tennis court, and somebody asked, well, how come you made it into a basketball court? Henry, you might want to give the short answer.
Yeah.
The short answer was
Explain it.
we tried to put the double tennis court back in that was there. What happened was initially we weren't even planning on repaving it. It was to just go in there and do the crack repair, color coat.
Mm-hmm.
What happened was when we went there, the damage was so bad on it. It got to the point where it needed to be repaved.
Right.
So once we started excavating it out,
Yeah, it
to
was a lot worse
repave
than
it,
we anticipated.
the subsoil conditions that we encountered there and the subsurface water conditions that we encountered there were just really, really worse than what we had envisioned finding. As a result, we cut the court down in half basically. So it was either put a single court back there, or in talking with Brian, we thought the better option was, we don't have a basketball court in the park. Why don't we put a basketball court in there because it takes half the room up, and then we didn't have to deal with the bad
water
soil
issue.
and water issues, and then we could relocate a brand new double tennis court there the following spring, which is what the plan is this upcoming spring, is to put that double tennis court back there in an area where hopefully we won't encounter the same problem.
And speaking of the tennis courts, they're now playing another game because down at the shore I play this with the
Pickleball?
Yeah, pickleball.
I've heard
It's
of it.
very popular, and it's a little shortened version of
Yep.
the tennis court.
Well, it's funny that you brought that up, Councilwoman.
Yeah, I play
John
that.
Turney was mentioning
It's
we
very
might want to do a
popular.
version of that over at Bryant Park, having one single tennis court.
Yeah,
maybe
and
a
one
pickleball
pickleball because
That's the craze.
it's really popular, and it's a little easier to play than tennis, I will admit. My nephew had me out there, and I could actually keep up with him with it. So I have my own pickleball kit, and it's a little bit smaller.
Yeah, people have talked about it. I've heard a lot about it. Definitely seems
Well,
like
once
it's gaining more popularity.
There's all kinds of clubs.
And the thing is, it would be great to have pickleball-specific courts, only because it's difficult when you start taking the nets down and putting
Right.
them up and trying to
Okay.
reorganize existing courts for games.
Okay.
Is when I find that the damage that you end up doing
They
to
have
the
little
existing
temporary
courts.
ones. People bring
Yeah.
the clubs bring and put
Well,
them up
that's one of
themselves.
the
Becomes
issues
tough.
that Henry just brought up a very good valid point
Right.
about it. You should have that as a separate thing unto
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the problems we were having with folks over in somewhere the hockey rinks are, that they
Right.
were playing soccer inside the hockey rinks, and that's why we have an ordinance that you can't play
Right.
soccer in hockey rinks or for the hockey rinks,
Right.
rollerblading or for rollerblading. So that's why if you've ever noticed, we go on the basketball, that you see an ordinance sign saying it's specifically for that sport and that only, because
Yeah, so it
anything
doesn't-
other than that actually damages the.
A lot of times it does, yeah. Certain things will definitely damage, whether you're rollerblading and skateboarding in a tennis court where, the rollerblading, at least in the roller hockey rink, is not going to damage the court, because
Right.
the surfaces are a little bit different that we use for each specific court.
So in light of our current weather conditions, do we ever see an ice skating rink?
That
When I was young, we used to at the police station.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah, it was
They
the back
used
parking
the
lot.
back parking lot that
They
used
flood
to
it.
spray it
Sure.
and flood it, and everybody went skating there. Well,
Yeah, there was one light up there.
I skated on the Newmarket Pond.
Yeah.
Well, until probably this year, I don't know if it's been cold enough the last few years
Yeah,
to
right.
support ice on a regular
Right,
basis, but
right.
yeah, this year would definitely been a year for
Something.
flooding
Well,
something.
I remember growing up as a kid.
Could
that,
It's
use the
something
lake,
to
though.
think about.
For sure.
we used to, speaking about the snow and the weather, that we
Right.
used to ice skate on the Lake Nelson Pond.
Nelson,
and
yeah.
build bonfires out in
Well,
the middle there.
I was on the Newmarket Pond, but I went once to Lake Nelson, and a man came and said that we had to get off the
Yeah,
ice.
because it's a private lake.
So it was private.
Yeah, it was
But we
private.
quickly got off of the ice.
Well, ice, back in the day,
Yeah,
it was very difficult
very
to
fun.
find an ice skating rink.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's a lot more prevalent now. There's a lot more rinks
Well, the
throughout the
Middlesex County,
state.
Middlesex
and
County
Middlesex
has a nice
County,
rink.
and even throughout
Yeah.
the state. Where
It's just something
back in the
temporary
day,
maybe
yeah,
we could do.
there was only a few.
Right.
So
Well, we even been saying we have another video about the snow. We all got our first January snowfall of 2008.
Do we have any predictions?
I don't know. Let's go to the videotape. Well, I mean, we did this on a township website. That's for those folks. That's the old-fashioned way how we kept track of where all the vehicles are in town, and that's a truck delivering some road salt, 18 tons of road salt. That day we ended up receiving 500 tons, so you figure out 19 truckloads. But the salt dome that we have out there holds up to 4,500 tons. So that's a lot of salt. Because we have other entities, and the Board of Education uses some of the salt out of our dome and some other entities there. But you're talking about that comes from upstate New York, all that salt coming down. So that's a shot, obviously, a wheel loader loading up one of our tandem trucks with a large spreader. And as I explained over the weekend, is that those trucks, there's actually saddlebags on the side of where the spreader is. I don't know if you can see them or not, which is loaded up with liquid calcium that helps melt the snow a lot quicker, assisting the road salt. And that's a conga line of a couple of our garbage trucks and our tri-axle truck. Those are typically the heavier duty trucks that we have, and they normally stay on the Centennial Avenues, on New Brunswick Road, on the large Mains, William Street, because you can't take them down cul-de-sacs or residential streets. So, and that's a shot on Morris Avenue where the snow was constantly drifting. And then this is some shots where, I guess, off of North Rand, where people, I guess, didn't decide to bring their cars in. And this is part of the problem that our
makes it hard to
workforce and our private contractors run into, and people just decide to park on the street when they do have room in their driveways or on their lawn where they can put their cars temporarily. And you see this is a shot from one of our trucks going down the street where the gentleman has to weave in and out to avoid the vehicles out there. And the other thing is that when you're in one of those large trucks in a blinding snowstorm plowing, the last thing you want to do is clip somebody's vehicle that's on the street.
Well, the other issue is that it's not good for the people's house it's in front of, because then the truck cannot plow close to their driveway, and then they have to shovel a lot
One of the things
farther.
I want you notice that right there where the plow hit like a manhole cover thing. So those are wheels that the plows actually sit on. They sit like 2 inches off of the ground, and there's shoe blades. That's a shoe blade right there where the plow, so it doesn't ride actually on the asphalt. This is on Plainfield Avenue there where some folks were having a hard time getting up the little incline there. In a case like that, if you live in town and you know that there's like an incline, if there's an alternative means to get around until the road gets plowed, instead of having your vehicle being stuck. And one of the huge problems that we had, for whatever reason, is that there was a lot of cars parked on the road.
Yeah.
The weather forecasters were telling everybody anywhere from 2 to 4, then they bumped it up to 3 to 5, then it went to 4 to 6.
Right.
And then next thing you know, I think we ended up at like 6 inches. So, if there's anything of significance of a plowable event where the plow blades are coming out and plowing, you should not be parking your car on the road.
I think the neighbors, if there's people parked in front of your house that aren't your cars, they should go out and say, could you please move your car? Because it affects them getting close to their driveway.
It certainly does.
That's right.
And it requires them to shovel a heck of a lot more out to the street because the car was parked there.
Like for instance, in this sort of storm, we were plowing the streets. However, we didn't start going curb to curb until around 3:30 because the snow had just stopped then. And then once you go curb to curb, you're in and out of there. But when you have instances like this where there's other vehicles parked on it, we don't have the resources or the personnel to come back and touch up a street when they move their car out of the
Right.
It just doesn't happen. When you have like 800 roadway miles.
And hopefully people understand that. Yeah.
It's my understanding that for this snowstorm we had more parking tickets than any other time.
I gotta tell you, I'm just actually stunned at that. The people in this day and age after that ordinance has been in effect for well more than a decade.
And you're talking about a lot.
So why don't you tell people how they can if they're not being informed, then they need to find the ways that they
Well,
can become
basically, we do
informed. The Swift
we
911.
do the Swift 911. We
Right.
put out an alert to all the mobile phones. I mean, we run it on our website, our Facebook,
And so if somebody
just for
doesn't,
everybody to know,
Right.
just to show, it's a rule, and that's
Yeah.
a rule that's mostly in every town. Ordinance isn't in every town, basically, in the
And
state
you
of New
certainly
Jersey.
mention it during your shows.
Yeah.
but maybe somebody hasn't heard it. So if somebody doesn't have Swift 911, how do they get it?
Yeah.
How do they go
They
about
can
getting
contact, and we're going to talk about that in the announcements.
Okay.
You can go to
Yeah.
our website and then click on the police department.
it?
They can-
Okay.
Right.
So-
Or we can also put it on the Facebook as well. So
Yeah, that might be a good
whatever
idea.
it takes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know what? Because we have private contractors that supplement the work. We call them in once our normal workforce is plowing out there, but we just don't have the resources to go back in and touch up during an especially heavy, large storm.
That's right.
Testing. And granted, this was only a 6 to 7 inch storm, but when you push it like a 20-inch or 25-inch storm, you know you're talking in wheel loaders and somebody. I mean, we have on a consistent basis some streets where people every year they just park their car immediately in front of the driveway because they don't want the plows to
Put the
plow in. But
yes.
what happens is they're digging their car out and throwing
Putting
the
it in the
snow right
street.
back in the
Yeah.
street,
Right.
or you're snow blowing it, which you shouldn't be doing. There's an ordinance
right.
against that. We want to at least have the roads passable so people can get out and
exactly.
get to where they got to go, whether it has to be school, or work, or place of employment, or
Yeah.
whatever. So,
And we have rules for that also.
yes, we do.
For an example, when you plow your driveway, put it to the left on the other side of the mailbox.
That's it. If you're facing your
If you're
street,
facing, yeah.
shovel to the right.
To the right.
If you're looking at your house, shovel
Yeah.
to the left.
And if you have a fire hydrant, please
Yeah.
shovel it.
And Councilwoman Lombardi brings
Yeah.
up like I'm
Yeah.
sure the local firehouses
We
would
do
appreciate
go around,
that.
yeah. I mean, they do go around and do them a lot. But if you do have a fire hydrant and you have
Yeah.
the
Well,
capacity
yeah, the fire
to shovel
hydrants,
it out,
yes.
please
It's
shovel
actually
it
in
out.
your interest.
Yes, it
to
is.
see.
I have one on
Yeah.
in front of my house.
Yeah, same
So
here.
we have to shovel
She
it out.
specifically bought the house with a fire
Uh-huh,
hydrant.
fire, yeah.
exactly.
To her, that was a big, to the councilwoman, that was a big selling point. But with that being said, I mean, granted, it's the first full week of, we're going into the second full week of January, and I'm sure we're going to get another storm, whatever it is that's going to come out. But so I'm just asking, just be patient. Typically, we don't want people parking for 24 hours on the street until we can get the roadway cleared, and then we go into pushbacks the following day to get it closer, so the storm drains aren't blocked, because you're always preparing for the next storm. So just be patient in that, and as a reminder, if it gets below, like, say, 25 degrees out there, road salt does not work below 25 degrees. So if somebody calls up and says, well, why don't you put some salt down? It's not, especially in this week, it wouldn't do any good anyway. Because of the cold weather. This has been highly unusual cold weather, as everybody knows, over the last week and a half. So,
And also, didn't we finish all the roads in 18 hours or something?
yes,
like that?
actually, believe it or not,
Yeah.
when we started going curb to curb at 3:30, we were finished by midnight.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there was a couple areas that I know there was a section in the Newmarket area didn't get it done until about 11 o'clock. We were running short of some of the contractors that were supposed to show up that didn't.
But that was
So
almost
that kind
like
of
overnight.
pushed us back.
Yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, if you look at a town our size and you can get that done in less than 12 hours and a size storm like that, you're doing pretty good. So with that, we're going to go to our monthly announcements. I just want to remind the viewers the month is January, and we do have the Martin Luther King celebration coming up. It's the annual Martin Luther King Jr. Breakfast. The guest speaker is going to be Reverend Stephen Green. He is a motivational speaker and a former NAACP National Director for Youth College. He's now the pastor of Herd AME Church in Moselle. His talk is calling Honoring the Dreamer, Revisiting the Dream, and the breakfast will be at the Piscataway Senior Center. And you need to RSVP that to my office at 732-562-2301 or Northdale AME Church. The rabies clinic in January for all dogs and cat owners are out there. The rabies will be held on Saturday, January 20th from 9 a.m. to noon. Please come to the Public Works Garage at 505 Sydney Road. Dogs must be on a leash. Cats must be in a carrier. Electronic chipping will be available. We're going to double check into that. In addition, our clerk's office in Town Hall will be open during these hours to issue dog and cat licenses, and I'll be down there with my two dogs. They get to have a rabies shot. The recreational programs, our recreation department is running great programs during the winter. On Saturdays, we have gym hockey at the high school for older kids and adults. It's play on gym floor with sneakers and a plastic puck. All is the fun and none is the cold. Also on Saturdays, arts and crafts for younger kids at the Quibbletown Middle School. For more information, visit the recreational page at the Township website at www.piscatawaynj.org for more information. Also, Christmas trees. A reminder that if you still have a Christmas tree and need disposal of, do not take it to the curb. It will not be picked up. Instead, bring it to the Piscataway mini dump or your local firehouse department parking lot. They will be there collecting the trees for proper disposal until January 31st. Road construction. Just a heads up to all the utilities that are being PSE&G, New Jersey American Water, and Verizon have been working around the town upgrading their infrastructure. We've been alerting motorists via our Swift 911 messaging system about construction and traffic detours. If you do not have Swift 911, you can go to our municipal website, piscatawaynj.org, and under the police menu to sign up for this service. It is free of charge. The Citizens Police Academy will be starting up in February. Learn what it is like to be behind the scenes of the Piscataway Police Department. The deadline for this for applying is January 12th. The program starts in February and runs for 13 weeks. And the program is open to Piscataway residents 21 years or older. And again, you can find this information about this program on our website at www.piscatawaynj.org. On Thursday, January 18th, Kennedy Library branch will have a 7 p.m. class called Empowerment for Job Search using social media. This is the part of the series of a free workshop to help job seekers prepare for today's job markets. Please look at the library's website, piscatawaylibrary.org, for more information on how to register. And the Piscataway Historical Society will have a talk about Thomas Munday Peterson. Mr. Peterson, in March of 1870, became the first African American to vote under the 15th Amendment to the Constitution. It happened to be in Perth Amboy, New Jersey. The Historical Society is hosting a lecture about Mr. Peterson's historical vote at the Piscataway Senior Center on Thursday, January 25th at 7:30 p.m. And the historian Gordon Bond will be the guest speaker for that lecture. Town Hall will be closed on Martin Luther King Day. Please know that in honor of Martin Luther King Day, Town Hall will be closed on Monday, January 15th. Rebroadcast. Please know that this program will be rebroadcast throughout the month on PC Channel 15, Verizon 40, and live stream on PC TV website. Our next Eye on Piscataway will be in first week of February, so stay tuned when that happens. As a side note, I want to talk about the library doing the job search for individual residents. We do have a local company here in town that are looking for job applicants. So just please look at our website. There's some of these companies are coming into our community, are looking to employ local folks. So we one of them is actually a company that's one of the largest manufacturer of boxes and packaging, Cascades, and actually they are looking to hire like well over 100 people. This is like not transferring jobs; they're actually physically moving into the town. They're from Canada. They're looking to actually hire local people.
And residents are aware of it. Actually, people have been telling me.
Anywhere where we have these companies moving into town, if we can get Township residents employed within our community, that's a very
win-win.
good. That's a good thing, because that's one of the things that the council and myself have been working on is the economic development throughout the town. As we're starting to see some of the office buildings being filled back out, sites being repurposed. As Henry knows, he does the site inspections on them and with the planning and zoning boards. But that's one of the toughest jobs that we've had over the last 7 or 8 years is doing the economic development. Because don't forget, we're not in just competition with neighboring towns and states. We're in competition with other countries to get jobs. So that's been one of the tough things that we've been doing. So that concludes our monthly announcements there. We do have one of the discussion items, I guess we could probably bring it up now, about one of the parks that's been a park in our town, but it hasn't been developed into a park because it's still in litigation, is what we're temporarily calling it the Piscataway Ecological Park. For those folks, that's located at Mettler's Lane and Washington Avenue. One of the things that you're going to see over the next couple of months, probably around April, is that we're going to be out to bid to do the demolition of all the structures out there on the site. We probably have we had a green light from the courts that we can go in and at least do the demolition, and then it looks like all facets of the court case are going to be coming to an end game at some point in 2018. So we've been punting around, and I know Henry's been tossing and turning. He's chomping at the bit to start designing something out there. But basically, we've been holding off on that because the judge and the courts have said, no, you got to hold off on that until everything's been remediated and all, legal issues have been resolved. But since we're getting towards the tail end of the litigation, it's now time that we could start talking about it. So we're going to go to some videotape. Let's cue it up. And for those folks that know that site, all those structures out there will be coming down this year in 2018. We actually hired an engineering firm that did asbestos abatement, and that'll be a part of the contract to take down all the structures out there. And been a long time, 15 years and change, to get to the point where we are. And I know, Henry, you have some thoughts out there, and we're going to actually ask some public input out there and what should be done. We have a general idea after talking with a lot of the residents over the last decade or more to what they'd like to see out there as some components to that property out there. And, there is some parameters that the town have to abide by because it's supposed to be a passive recreational use site. So basically you can't have football, basketball, or
the team sports.
And the team sports types things out there. That's what's you can. So, but we can, I believe, possibly have playground equipment. I think
you can do a playground. Again, I think it falls into that passive recreation component.
Walking trails.
Tons of walking trails. It's
that was the point I was going to make, because I take a look at some other parks, quote unquote, and they have a lot of walking trails for you and your dog, and whatever the case is, sometimes the dogs are right there just having fun with each other.
Speaking of the dogs, that's something that a lot of people have asked for, is an actual dog park.
Oh, yes.
So I think that I was talking with Henry, and he seems to think there's plenty of room that we might be able to do
And
that.
I've seen a few around in other towns, and I'll tell you, a dog park in that area.
Yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to put up a map right now, and Henry, you might want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a pretty conceptual map that we really came up with a lot of this stuff probably several years ago. We've refined it a little bit over the years, but again, talking with Michele and with you and the council, and putting out probably some questionnaires to the residents, I'm sure this will be refined over time to really narrow it down and to really solidify a plan moving forward. But the way we see it is, again, it's going to be a passive park. There'll probably be some environmental learning component or ecological learning components to the site, whether it be an arboretum, again, perhaps a building where people could, or groups from outside can come in and use the facilities to have meetings. A dog park is I think is shown up on the map, is a large component. We don't have a dog park currently in the township.
Right.
I think
It's for those that are looking at the circle in the center is designated as a dog park.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
But I guess it doesn't.
It's that green circle, the round
one
circle.
of them, I think. I'm not sure if it's the center
Yeah, it is
one.
the center circle.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
And the other thing too, very similar to Green Acres, you can have people walking or running around here rather than for it to be just open.
I got to tell you, as we're
this is
talking
all
about
open,
the
right?
improvements to the park, as Henry knows, because Henry helped design that multi-use path around Green Acres.
Around Green Acres.
Which we received a state grant to do that going back more than a decade ago. If we could put that map back up, I think that would be a very popular, large jogging mup.
All those pink lines on that plan
That's all walking.
basically represent walking and
Right.
multi-use path type trails. So again, due to the size of this tract, 40-something acres, its location adjacent to the Ambrose Dottie's Brook Park, it really, I think, will lend itself to a lot of trails and walking areas and paths. So I think
Yeah,
that's
there
probably
is
gonna be
some
the main component.
constrictions out there because you have the Texas Eastern pipeline that runs right through there. But
the other thing about this, it's flat. Which
For the most
means,
part.
For the most part,
It's
which means
deceiving.
Yeah, I think
It
it's
actually
not so
slopes
flat.
towards the brook a little
Yeah.
bit.
okay.
A portion of the property.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the property is a relatively flat piece of land.
Right.
With the exception of perhaps a
And it'll
third
be
or a
very
quarter of-
appropriate for walking trails and whatever the case is.
Yeah, the elevation doesn't have really any impact
No.
on the trails. It actually provides, I think, more interest and more opportunity for some unique aspects to the trails, not just a totally flat trail. Even the path, I think, that goes through the Green Acres has a couple of dips
It's
here
got
and
some
there.
hills. That's not
yeah.
flat.
Yeah, there's some dips in there.
I
right?
walk it. It's not flat.
No, and again, as Brian knows, it's probably one of our most successful
Yeah.
projects
Yeah.
to date. The amount of use
my
that
two
Yeah.
dogs.
Yeah.
are
That's
trail
right, you
goes
walk
to
your
that
dogs
path.
over there.
Yeah.
The other
And
thing,
you see a lot of people walking during lunch hour, during morning.
In that
evening.
case, in that park over there, backs up to Green Acres on Sydney Road. You have a lot of the corporate community that actually during their lunch hour they're walking.
Yes, the
down.
lunch hour.
IEEE, for example, I believe has clubs that they actually go out there at lunch
right.
and walk.
The other piece that we're thinking maybe is the community gardens, also something
Right.
where people can grow their own vegetables or.
Definitely a community component
Yeah.
to the park, whether it be gardens or
Yeah.
nursery or, like I said,
Okay.
ecological learning facilities.
And some of those community gardens, they are very large in certain towns. Very large.
Well, I just want to. It's not going to happen overnight.
Sure.
No.
One of the people
But
have to
we're moving in the
understand
right
is
direction.
I'm just happy that the judge gave us a sign off that we could start doing a demolition
Mm-hmm,
because some of those structures over there are obviously unsafe. More importantly, we're always concerned about the vandalism and the vagrants possibly over there. But with that being said, with them coming down this year, basically the end of the court case is going to decide what the valuation of the cleanup because the prior owners are responsible for the cleanup.
Yes.
And
And the
which
cleanup
money
there
would
is
be
pretty
in
deep,
escrow,
right? So-
to clean up the site. So
Yeah.
once a contract is put out to actually clean up the site, meaning excavate whatever contaminants are out
Yeah.
there and bring in clean soil, that's going to take a while.
Yeah.
So
Now,
I
you
mean,
have
we're
to be
looking
very specific
a couple
about
of
the
years
fire.
here.
About the 5 inches that you have to
Yeah, it's
go down, right?
substantial with the
Yeah.
cleanup. But with that being said, the cleanup alone is going to take. I don't know. I'm just guessing off the top of my head. 18 months, 2 years.
At least a couple of years. I
Years
think, yeah.
alone before we get to the stage
So,
where Henry
right.
Hinterstein.
We're gonna get there.
I'll get
We're gonna
there,
get
but
there.
yeah, it's going to still take some time.
But in that process of time, we can get people involved.
Yes.
We could try to get people involved in maybe coming up with a name of what we want to name it, and then we can get
Yeah.
people involved and include them in the
Design
preparation in the design process.
Yeah, and like I said,
Without
there's
a
going to be
doubt,
some
yes.
constrictions on what you can and can't do out there. But it's not to say if somebody comes up with a good idea. And
Yeah.
I know one of the things we punted around to talking with the Rutgers Cook College Ag School over there because they have a lot of good resources out there.
Good resources too, and it may be a good project for perhaps some of the students in the program that
you went through.
actually went through. They're always looking for sort of practical projects where they can give to a class, and they could really come up with some great ideas. I remember, again, 30 years ago, doing things of that nature where towns actually came to the college and said, hey, we'd love for you to include this as a practical lesson in your class and come up with some ideas, and it was very successful. And it gave a lot of communities.
When you get people involved, you'd be surprised the ideas that you can come up with.
So
Well, one of the
between that and
things for
community-
Rutgers, that flower garden that's going on, that's a beautiful area.
display gardens, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Very nice.
if you look at it, we've known it's going to be a park for a number of years, and with the county reconstructing South Washington Avenue and Mettler's Lane with sidewalks, so that was the whole idea is that
Walkability.
there's going to be a walkability
Yeah.
and bike lanes to lead into the park for people. They need to have a safe way to get to the park, and that was the whole concept with working with the county engineering department and the board of choice of freeholders to have that type of concept along their county routes, because obviously you're traveling on county roads, and we weren't going to make it a single lane road with no bikes. I mean, because that would defeat the whole purpose of having a park
In
out
this
there.
case, both roads that the parks is surrounded by are both county roads. So.
Yes, and the good news is that the county roads are finished.
Yeah.
Fine.
And if you
Well,
have
at least one of them finished. One of them still has punch list items on it.
and also if you have the bike paths, they'll
That's
be
good, yeah, and it'll connect
Oh.
into the bike path, bike network out there on the
Exactly.
county roadway system.
because you see that many places you go, you see these bike paths
Bike lanes,
and so
right.
forth. Yes.
All right, we're going to come back to that, but they're waving. Valerie's waving at me that I have to show a video from the Citizens Police graduation. So let's go to the videotape.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we want to first thank you for attending and congratulations to our 9th graduating class of our Advanced Citizen Police Academy. We are hope that the attendees enjoyed themselves. They got to see a little bit more on the law enforcement side from our various law enforcement partners in the state and in the country. And we're going to get underway.
Sure you guys enjoyed it. I want to thank you for coming out and spending your time with us. I know time is precious sometimes. You have families, commitments outside of here, jobs. So it does mean a great deal to us that you take time out of your day to spend some time with us and see what we do. I'd be remiss also, again, if I didn't thank Lieutenant Hackler, Calvin, and Ray for the work that they put into it. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes things that go into this. They give, I was doing it a long time ago with them also. They give up their Thursday nights. But anyway, again, I think this is part of our partnership with the community, like I've spoken before. My predecessor, Chief Ivone, myself, Mayor Waller, the council, we all embrace that community relationship that we have between the police department and the community. And you will not find a town in this state, I guarantee you, where the police department and the administration of the township embrace the community any more than it is done here. This is a great place to live. It's a great place to work. You have a great police department. You have a great township. So I'd also like to thank the mayor and the council for the support they give us, because without that, without the funding, we wouldn't be able to run these programs for you.
Now, in all seriousness, I want to thank the chief and Captain McLaughlin and the rest of the command staff and also the community policing section of Piscataway Police Department for working with you and for you giving up a couple of weeks, Thursday nights out of there. And, we all have moving parts in our lives, and, anytime you got to give up an hour or hour and a half there, it all adds up towards the end of the year. But I know you probably got way involved in this program, which is great for the town. Please stay involved with the community. It's folks such as you that it really brings down to the neighborhood community policing. That's what being at the ground level, working with police departments are all about. Just to piggyback off of that videotape, that's the advanced class version of what the police officer know the departments. They normally have a lot of the folks in the FBI, ATF come in and teach some of the classes. But what we said in the announcements is the 13-week course of the generic, I guess for a lot, Citizen Police Academy 101, if you want to call that. That's coming up, but this is like the upgraded version of that. It's a shorter, compressed 7 weeks, but they have different folks from law enforcement, community, and homeland security that come in there. So any residents out there, please, the police department's accepting applications the month of January. I think there's a cutoff deadline starts in February.
The thing that I like about these classes, not only this one, but also the youngsters classes, it gives them an understanding of our police.
Yeah, so they can understand how things work.
That's right, because on television you see a lot, on the media I should say, you see a lot of people that, I hate the police. But when you have the police engage with the community, they get to know each other and so forth. And as a result of that, we have 24 different police community types of activities going on right now. And that's the reason I'm sure that our town is a great town to live in.
Right. Well, it gives people an understanding of how things work.
Yes,
and when people understand how things work, they're more informed, and it's a good thing. That's just
and
a good
the other
thing.
thing, too, you see, we don't have a downtown, so we don't have police walking up and down. So this is one way to help engage the community, the kinds of things we do here.
Okay, we do actually have a caller. I think they want to call and ask Henry a question. I believe this is Kevin. Welcome to Piscataway. Kevin, what can we do for you?
Yeah, hi. I think the dog park is an excellent idea, but I was wondering if there might be an opportunity if there could be a farmer's market
Farmers market. That's a good question. That'll be, I guess you just made a suggestion. So
Highland Park's got one. New Brunswick's got one. They seem to be pretty popular, and we could get sourced food from farm to table.
I can come over and sell my tomatoes, my nice tomatoes in my garden.
Why not?
Great idea.
Sounds like a good idea.
All right, we'll have to check with the health department to make sure that's on the up and up. But that's a great idea, and for those residents such as you, when we get to that point where we're going to be asking via our website to have some suggestions, or pick up the phone and call Mr. Hinterstein, we're going to have some time to really think this out, because it's going to take at least a year and a half to get the site cleaned up. But now is the time to actually plan to what we need to do. So thanks for calling in, Kevin, and happy New Year.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
I believe East Brunswick has 2 farmers markets, don't they?
That's
if I recall.
it's very interesting. You talk with a lot of mayors from around the country. That is like a farm to table type thought process out there, where they're doing that, because of the health and wellness campaigns that the towns are trying to do for their residents. So that's
and a lot of times each town has like one day, like somebody will have a Tuesday, somebody will have a Wednesday. Each town has their dedicated day that they have people bring in their local produce.
It's a great
it's
social,
very big.
and it's very big.
I think it's a great thing to think about, yes.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be for necessarily this park. It could be for maybe something where it maybe moves around even. So
well, that's the other thing. But wherever you have the farmer, you're going to have to set it up. We have to look at logistics.
Sure.
Because if you're going to have people, in theory, you want something that's going to gain in popularity.
Yes.
So you're going to have.
So I think it should stay in one place.
Yeah, it has to stay in one place so people get familiarized with it. So.
Yep.
And it has to be in the open, where the traffic is going, so they can see it over there.
Yeah. So Henry, we basically the 4 really big parks in town have been, in essence, renovated. I mean, some of them still are going to have minor cosmetics things, and I know we're still working on Day Park over there, doing some work out there. We're looking eventually to put a bike trail in over there.
Right, bike walking trail.
I mean, that's one. It's not going to happen overnight. We're doing baby steps, fixing some of the drainage in that park before we.
Right, but for the most part, like you said, the 4 larger parks, the ones that you could reserve for picnics and things of that nature, Riverside, Possum Town, Columbus Park.
And which, by the way, I for those residents out there, that's actually a great deal. I think it's $300
I don't
to
even
rent,
know if it's that much, but
or
maybe
$250, whatever the dollar.
Town? Yeah, you could have.
It is. You have the
fantastic wedding
entire
there.
park for you, dedicated for you, and then you have an attendant that
Yeah.
comes with that,
Yeah.
that takes care, and that includes propane grills
It's
and
covered,
everything.
even if it were to rain.
And even if it
it's
rains,
covered.
it's covered.
Yeah.
So it's rain or shine.
And to have an attendant
Bathroom?
there, that's
Yeah.
The
excellent.
attendant, the restrooms, like you said, the natural gas grills. You don't even need to bring your grill.
It's incredible.
It's all state of art because Henry knows because he designed it.
Yeah, you have an outdoor kitchen basically.
Yeah.
You have water,
Yeah.
sinks.
Some
in
of
the
them
cooking
hot
areas.
and cold running
Hot
water
and cold.
too.
I mean, both Columbus and
So-
Riverside Parks. I mean, you basically have like an outdoor kitchen.
If somebody wants to get married, they could get married under the
Yeah,
gazebo.
there
We
you
got,
go.
we got a ton of areas. You can go to the
Under-
lake.
yeah.
The lake's set up great right now, and we're trying to continually improve that. We just finished again adding another floating gazebo out there and another kayak launch.
And then the Ernie
fishing
Day
dock.
overlook
We
was.
did the overlook, which came out again. I think came out spectacular. It's all weatherproof now.
Great.
We don't have to worry
Great.
about painting it anymore. It should last for another 25, 30 years without any issues.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll just keep adding to that lake area.
Sure.
And as you said, Mayor, bringing people
if-
back to the water.
Yeah, and if I may make a comment about cultural arts, when you see all of these people out there, and if you have the British invasion group, there are at least 600 people out there.
Yeah.
And as we walk around chatting with people, I would say 30% of those people do not live in Piscataway.
No, they know about. They love coming.
They know about it, and
The ironic part
and the
is-
price is right.
As Councilman Bullard was alluding to, it's kind of funny because you get a lot of people from Middlesex Borough and
Yes,
Mellon that come over.
right down the
Sure,
street.
Sure.
But as Henry knows, we've been doing incremental baby steps because we've spoken about this for more than a decade, especially with that park. That after speaking with other mayors from around the country, that that's the water is an economic resource, and what I mean by economics, it's for health and wellness. It attracts industry and business there, and so what we've been doing is baby steps. As Henry's been involved with the design of it, we're going to have another phase next year of that where we're reclaiming the waterfront to beautify it.
Yeah, we've been doing, like you said, little baby steps with the floating, replacing the floating docks and the gazebos. We created the park, or the comfort station across the street, provided more parking for the concerts. We provided the arbors and the benches along the waterway, the retaining walls to try to provide some landscaping and some safe areas for people to sit and enjoy the lake. And I think this year we're actually doing the area down near where the overlook deck is, and near the spillway, and trying to improve that area, bring some more tables and benches, and just provide some more scenic areas to enjoy the lake and the waterfall and the concerts, and a little bit of place to have lunch.
Come the springtime, we should highlight each park on our new updated Facebook page. So if you haven't seen our updated Facebook page, go to Piscataway Township and look up for the Facebook page and like our page, so you can really see what's happening in our town. So maybe come springtime we can go to each park and we could show a little bit of each park weekly, so that people can get to know the parks, you know, and see where they'd like to visit, different places.
What Jane is doing right now, actually, he's designing the Facebook such that it let people know what's happening in our township.
Yeah.
And I think it's
a great way to include people on stuff that's happening in our town.
Because you have a lot of people who are Facebook oriented.
Yes.
And we're going to start concluding our show because of the stage director, Valerie, is getting upset because we're getting close to the end there. So.
We have to stop?
Yeah. So I want to thank Councilman Bullard and Henry Hinterstein, our landscape
architect. Thank you very much,
Councilman
sir.
Lombardi.
Happy New Year, everybody.
And please, if it's snowing out, get your cars off the road, and please have warm. And I'll give you my Super Bowl predictions in the month of February. And everybody have a very warm January, and we'll see you in the first week in February.
Yes.